The festive atmosphere at Burgers and Fries was abruptly interrupted by the woman's frantic entrance. The colourful lights and spooky decorations seemed to dim for a moment as everyone turned their attention to her. The jukebox, which had been playing a lively tune, now seemed eerily silent in the background. Dylan, ever the joker, even in the face of potential danger, quipped, "Well, I guess we've moved from swamp creatures to werewolves. What's next? A vampire barista?" Sophie shot him a look. "Dylan, seriously, now's not the time." Max, always the voice of reason, asked the woman, "Can you tell us what happened? Where did you see this werewolf?" The woman, trying to catch her breath, pointed towards the town square. "It was near the old clock tower. I saw it chasing a group of kids. They were terrified." Chloe, her eyes filled with concern, said, "We need to help them." Buddy, sensing the urgency, barked in agreement, his tail wagging with determination. Sophie nodded. "All right, Clue Club, let's get to the bottom of this. It's Halloween, and we can't have a werewolf, real or fake, ruining it for everyone." With a collective sense of purpose, the Clue Club followed the woman out of the diner, ready to face the howling mystery that awaited them on the moonlit streets of Pineview. The town centre was a hub of activity, especially on Halloween night. Strings of orange and purple lights adorned the buildings, and the old clock tower loomed over the square, its face illuminated by a soft, eerie glow. Children in costumes darted about, their laughter and excitement filling the air. But amidst the festivities, there was a palpable tension. A small crowd had gathered near a candy stall, and as the Clue Club approached, they could see a young man, his face pale, recounting his encounter with the alleged werewolf. "It was huge," he exclaimed, his voice shaking. "Its eyes glowed yellow, and it had sharp, gleaming teeth. It looked just like those werewolves you see in the movies. I've never been so scared in my life." Dylan, unable to resist, chimed in. "Maybe it was just a really hairy man having a bad hair day." Sophie nudged him, trying to suppress a smile. "Dylan, not now." But before they could question the witness further, Buddy's ears perked up. He began to sniff the ground intently, his nose leading him towards a narrow alleyway adjacent to the clock tower. Chloe remarked, "Looks like Buddy's onto something." Max, with a smirk, added, "Let's just hope it's not the scent of a juicy burger." With Buddy leading the way, the Clue Club ventured into the shadows of the alley, ready to unravel the mystery of the Pineview Werewolf. The mayor's office was a grand old building, its stone facade illuminated by the soft glow of street lamps. As the Clue Club approached, they could see the light from a single window on the ground floor, indicating someone was still inside. Buddy's barking grew more insistent as they neared the entrance, and soon the door opened to reveal Mrs. Eleanor Mitchell, the mayor's wife. She was dressed in a vintage 1950s outfit, complete with a pillbox hat and pearls, clearly ready for the town's Halloween festivities. Sophie, trying to sound as polite as possible, asked, "Excuse me, Mrs. Mitchell, this might sound a bit odd, but have you seen a werewolf around here in the last 15 minutes? Mrs. Mitchell chuckled. "A werewolf? In Pineview? Oh dear, you kids and your imaginations. Next, you'll be telling me there's a mummy in the town library." Dylan, always ready with a retort, grinned. "Well, there's always a first time for everything, right? Maybe the werewolf needed some mayoral advice." Mrs. Mitchell laughed. "Oh, you're quite the joker, aren't you?" Sophie, trying to steer the conversation back, inquired, "But in all seriousness, Mrs. Mitchell, have there been any strange occurrences lately, other than that swamp creature mystery we recently solved?" Mrs. Mitchell paused, her expression turning thoughtful. "Well, now that you mention it, there have been some odd happenings. Late at night, I've heard strange noises coming from the old storage room in the basement, but I always assumed it was just the building settling." The Clue Club exchanged glances. Could this be a lead? The basement was dimly lit, the air slightly musty. As the Clue Club descended the creaky wooden stairs, they spotted Mayor Mitchell near a closet, hurriedly shutting its door. Papers were scattered around him, and his face had a sheen of sweat. Dylan, never one to miss an opportunity for humour, quipped, "Mayor Mitchell, doing some late-night spring cleaning, or should I say, spooky cleaning?" The mayor, clearly flustered, replied, "Oh, it's you kids. Just tidying up a bit. You know how these old buildings can get. Chloe, pointing to the book on lycanthropy, said, "Interesting choice of reading material for a tidy-up session." Sophie, always the detective, picked up the book and inquired, "Mayor, care to explain why there's a book on werewolves down here?" The mayor, avoiding eye contact, responded, "That? Oh, it's not mine. Must have been one of the staff. You know, Halloween and all. People get into the spirit of things." Max, with a smirk, added, "Or maybe preparing for a full moon transformation." Dylan chuckled, "Yeah, and I'm preparing to become a vampire." "Got any tips?" The mayor forced a laugh. "Very funny, Dylan, but seriously, it's just a book, nothing to be alarmed about." Sophie, not entirely convinced, said, "Well, we'll be on our way then, but if you happen to see any werewolves, do let us know." As the Clue Club made their way back up the stairs, they couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this mystery than met the eye. The town square was alive with the sounds of laughter, music, and the occasional shriek from a well-executed scare. Children in costumes darted about, their bags heavy with candy, while adults chatted and enjoyed the festive atmosphere. The Clue Club, however, was on high alert, scanning the crowd for any sign of the mysterious werewolf. Dylan, trying to lighten the mood, said, "With all these costumes, how will we ever spot a real werewolf? Maybe we should have brought silver bullets." Max chuckled, "Or maybe a big bone for Buddy to distract him." But their jokes were cut short by the chilling howl and a woman's terrified scream. The gang, without hesitation, sprinted towards the source of the commotion. Reaching the mayor's office, they found a distraught Mayor Mitchell cradling his wife, Mrs. Eleanor Mitchell, on the front steps. Her face bore deep scratch marks, and her eyes were wide with terror. "It came from behind the building," the mayor stammered, his voice shaking. "I saw it leap out and attack Eleanor." Sophie knelt beside Mrs. Mitchell, trying to comfort her. "It's going to be okay, Mrs. Mitchell. We're here to help." Chloe, scanning the area, said, "There's no sign of it now, but we need to find out what's going on." Dylan, looking at the mayor's nervous demeanour, remarked, "Mayor, you seem awfully shaken up. You sure you didn't see more than you're letting on?" The mayor avoided Dylan's gaze, his voice barely above a whisper. "I just want this nightmare to end." Sophie, her detective instincts kicking in, said, "We need to get to the bottom of this, and fast." Leaving the distraught Mayor Mitchell and his injured wife, Eleanor, the Clue Club immediately began their investigation. The back of the mayor's office was dimly lit, with only a few scattered lanterns illuminating the area. The old brickwork of the building was covered in creeping ivy, and there was a sense of age and history to the place. Sophie, always observant, noted, "This place has been here for ages. There must be countless secrets hidden within." Max, peering into the shadows, said, "And maybe one of those secrets is our werewolf." As they scoured the area, Dylan suddenly called out, "Hey, look here!" He was pointing at a series of large, peculiar footprints leading away from the office. They were unmistakably large and had the distinct shape of a wolf's paw, but with a bipedal gait. Dylan, with a smirk, said, "Looks like our werewolf doesn't believe in wiping his feet before entering." Chloe, examining the prints, remarked, "These are fresh. It means whatever made these was here not long ago." Sophie, ever the leader, decided, "Let's follow them, but stay close and be alert." The footprints led them down a narrow, winding path, surrounded by tall trees that seemed to whisper secrets in the wind. The deeper they went, the denser the forest became, and the more pronounced the footprints appeared. As they ventured further, the path began to widen, and soon they found themselves at the edge of a clearing with an old, dilapidated cabin in the centre. The door of the cabin was slightly ajar, and a faint light flickered from within. Dylan, trying to lighten the mood, whispered, "Looks like someone's home. Maybe they're having a werewolf party." Sophie signalled for the group to be quiet and cautious. The next steps they took could be crucial in solving the mystery. As the Clue Club cautiously approached the cabin, the door suddenly burst open, revealing not one but two towering werewolf-like creatures. Their eyes glowed an eerie yellow, and their snarls echoed through the clearing. Dylan, eyes wide with panic, shouted, "I knew I should have worn my running shoes." Without a second thought, he sprinted towards the nearby water, hoping the creatures wouldn't follow. In his haste, he tripped over a stray branch, sending him tumbling into the lake with a loud splash. Sophie, trying to find a hiding spot, didn't see the open hole in the ground and fell right in, her legs dangling comically in the air for a moment before she disappeared from sight. Max and Chloe, meanwhile, scrambled up a tree, with Max jokingly saying, "Well, at least we have a bird's-eye view now." Buddy, ever the opportunist, had found a mud hole and was happily rolling around in it, seemingly oblivious to the chaos around him. After what felt like hours but was only a few minutes, the werewolves were nowhere to be seen. The forest was silent once more, save for the distant hoot of an owl and the gentle lapping of water where Dylan was trying to get out of the lake. Climbing out of the hole, Sophie remarked, "Well, that was unexpected, but where did they go?" Dylan, wringing out his shirt, joked, "Maybe they went to find a towel for me." The group gathered together, a little shaken but determined. They knew they were onto something big and they weren't about to let a pair of werewolves, real or fake, stand in their way. After ensuring the coast was clear, the Clue Club cautiously approached the cabin. The wooden structure, aged by time and weather, stood eerily silent amidst the dense woods. Its windows were dark, and the door slightly ajar, hinting at the hasty exit of its recent occupants. Dylan, trying to lighten the mood, joked, "Maybe the werewolves are having a tea party inside." Sophie, ever the leader, motioned for silence. "Let's go in, but be careful. We don't know what we might find." Pushing the door open, they stepped into the dimly lit interior. The cabin was in disarray. Papers were strewn about, chairs overturned, and a faint scent of something chemical lingered in the air. Max pointed to a table in the corner. "Look at this." On it lay several containers of makeup, brushes, and what looked like pieces of a costume. "Seems like our werewolves had a bit of help transforming." Chloe picked up a photograph from the floor. It showed the mayor standing in front of the cabin, looking much younger. "What's the mayor doing here?" Sophie, deep in thought, said, "There's a connection. We just need to figure it out." Dylan, peering into a closet, exclaimed, "Hey, check this out." Pulling out a pair of large furry boots, he added, "Looks like we found the werewolf's shoes." As the group laughed, Buddy, ever curious, had sniffed out a small box of treats and was happily wagging his tail. Sophie smiled. Even werewolves can't resist Buddy's charm. With newfound evidence and a growing list of questions, the gang knew they had to delve deeper into this mystery. Before leaving, Dylan spotted something on the table. Their eyes were immediately drawn to a worn-out notebook lying open on a wooden table. The flickering light from a nearby lantern illuminated its pages, revealing a series of hastily scribbled entries. Sophie, always the first to investigate, approached the table and began to read aloud. "It looks like a ledger of some sort. There are names, dates, and amounts written down." Max peered over her shoulder, his eyes widening. "Look at this entry. The mayor's name is here, and next to it is an amount of $20,000. That's no small sum." Dylan, unable to resist, quipped, "Maybe the mayor's buying a new fur coat, to match the werewolves?" Chloe gave Dylan a playful shove. "This isn't the time for jokes, but seriously, what's the connection between this ledger and our werewolf mystery?" Sophie pondered. "It's possible someone's trying to scare people away from this area, maybe to keep their illegal activities hidden, and if the mayor is involved or owes money, it could explain his strange behavior." Suddenly the wind howled outside, causing the cabin's windows to rattle. Buddy's ears perked up and he growled, sensing an unfamiliar presence. Max whispered, "We might not be alone. We need to be careful." Dylan, trying to lighten the mood, whispered back, "Unless it's a werewolf accountant, I think we're good." But with the mysterious notebook in hand and more questions than answers, the Clue Club knew their investigation was just beginning. The Clue Club, with the incriminating ledger in hand, made their way to Pineview Hospital. The atmosphere was tense as they approached the room where the mayor was attending to his wife. Sophie, taking the lead, said, "Mr. Mayor, we found something you might want to see." She opened the notebook to the page with his name and the staggering amount. The mayor's face turned a shade paler. I can explain," he stammered. Dylan, leaning against the doorframe, quipped, "I hope it's a howling good story." The mayor sighed deeply. "It's true. I've been gambling and I lost a lot of money. When those two men came to town, I thought they were my way out. But when I couldn't pay them, they threatened me. They said they'd get their money one way or another." Chloe interjected, "And you think they're behind the werewolf scare?" The mayor nodded. "It's the only explanation. They're trying to scare people away, maybe to buy up the land cheap or find some other way to make the money they're owed." Sophie looked at the mayor with sympathy. "We need to take this to the chief. We'll make sure they're stopped." Max added, "And you need to make things right, Mr. Mayor, not just with the town but with your family." The mayor nodded, tears in his eyes. "I know. I've made a terrible mistake." With newfound determination, the Clue Club left the hospital, ready to bring the culprits to justice. The Pineview police station was bustling with activity when the Clue Club arrived. They were immediately ushered into Chief Anderson's office. Sophie placed the ledger on the chief's desk. "We believe this is the motive behind the werewolf scares." Chief Anderson, a stern-looking man with a salt-and-pepper beard, skimmed through the pages, his eyebrows raising with every entry. "This is exactly what we needed. We've had our suspicions about those two newcomers, but we didn't have any concrete evidence." Dylan, leaning back in a chair, quipped, "Well, now you have it, and a couple of hairy suspects to boot." The chief chuckled. "You kids have a knack for getting into trouble and solving mysteries at the same time." Chloe smiled. "It's what we do best." Max added, "We just want to keep Pineview safe." Chief Anderson nodded. "And you do a fine job of it. We'll take it from here. Those two won't be scaring anyone else anytime soon." As the Clue Club left the station, the town's Halloween festivities were in full swing. Children in costumes ran from house to house, their laughter echoing in the crisp night air. Sophie looked at her friends. "Another mystery solved, just in time for Halloween." Dylan grinned. "And now for the most important part of the night, candy." They all laughed, and with Buddy trotting happily beside them, they headed off to enjoy the rest of their Halloween night. The neon lights of burgers and fries flickered as the Clue Club settled into their favourite booth, candy bags in tow. The diner was alive with the chatter of townsfolk, sharing tales of the evening's adventures. Sophie, excitement evident in her eyes, leaned forward. "Okay, gang, I've got some news. My great-uncle from New Orleans called. He's been experiencing some unusual events. He thinks it's related to voodoo." Dylan, eyes wide, feigned shock. "Voodoo? You mean like dolls and pins? Because I've got a few names I'd like to add to that list." He winked, causing the group to burst into laughter. Chloe, intrigued, asked, "Really, Sophie? Voodoo?" Sophie nodded. "Yes, and he's asked for our help. He believes there's more to it than just superstition." Max, ever the skeptic, raised an eyebrow. "Voodoo? In this day and age?" Just then, a distant howl echoed through the night, causing the group to exchange glances. Dylan, with a smirk, said, "Sounds like our werewolf friend is back." Max laughed. "No, that's just a coyote, but who knows what we'll find in New Orleans." The group chuckled, already looking forward to their next adventure.